Hello friends, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, welcome to the channel. If you don't know me, my name's Bethany. I sell millions and millions of dollars in real estate every single year in the GTA. You may know me from TikTok, and today I'm going to be talking about the habits that are affecting your purchasing power. Now, the thing here in Canada and Southern Ontario, as a real estate agent, it's not ever a matter of convincing someone to purchase a property. I can pretty confidently say that most of the people I speak to every single day, in person, online, they generally want home ownership. This is something that is important to most Canadians. And it's not a matter of convincing somebody that they should buy a property. It's usually just getting them access to buying a property, putting together that pathway to purchase. So years ago, I went and I took a course on how to do mortgages through REMIC, R-E-M-I-C, just to give myself the knowledge and understanding of what goes on behind the scenes when you're qualifying for a mortgage, or when a lender is looking at a potential candidate to determine how much of a mortgage or how much of a budget they could afford to purchase. Now, through that course, I learned so much. I actually have so much respect for people who work in mortgages or in banking or in finance, because it's a very difficult job to do. But I have a lot of learnings and takeaways. And then today I'm just going to kind of go over the common habits or general things that I see affecting most people when they want to go and buy, that often reduces their total purchasing power. So the first one is keeping up with the Joneses. Okay, now in this day and age of social media, I definitely empathize and I understand the pressure to have a certain lifestyle or to portray a certain lifestyle in person, online, with your friends. I think when you're thinking about home ownership and buying a home, it's important for you to know that as a first-time buyer, most of them are getting some sort of support or help from their parents. Whether that's, their parents gifting them some down payment money, or even going on title with them for the purchase so that they can qualify for a better budget, which we will talk about later on. From the outside looking in, if you are a first-time home buyer and you're wondering, how come all of my friends are buying these houses? How are they able to do all these things? I just have to tell you, for the most part, I would say 90% of them are getting some sort of help. So don't think that everybody is just way ahead of you and has all this money and makes all this money and can do all these things and you can't and now you feel bad about it. No, actually everybody is pretty much in the same boat here. So the number one thing that I notice with new buyers is their really deep desire to keep up with the Joneses and even with their potential purchase. So for example, I may have a first-time buyer who has more of a modest budget, and let's say, around $500,000, which is so crazy that I'm saying that's a modest budget. People around the world, if they're not from Southern Ontario and they watch this video, they're probably like, what the is she talking about? But imagine somebody who just had a budget of that much, which could only afford them, let's say, a small condo, like a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom condo. I've had buyers who've actually gone through that pre-approval process with the intention of buying a home, and then realize after they get their budget that their budget is not giving them what they had dreamed of for their first home. And maybe they're dreaming of, that townhouse that is $800,000 to $900,000. So I've had buyers that when they can't get what they want, they back out of the process because they cannot fathom the idea of maybe starting smaller, starting a little bit more economically, humbly, because they have that need to keep up with the Joneses. And as much as they don't want to say that out loud, that's usually what it is. It's this really, really emotional pressure to have a certain type of home so that they can portray a certain type of lifestyle. And I'm here to tell you, start small, especially with real estate. And where we live in the GTA, your first home is not your forever home. It's more common practice that the first home that you buy will just be your entry into real estate, and then probably your second or your third will be the home that you stay in more long-term. So if you are, considering buying, keep this at the very forefront of your mind. Don't worry about what anybody else thinks. All that matters is that if you want to have home ownership, all that matters is you getting into home ownership. I personally feel like it's a really cute rite of passage. Like, get something that is small, maybe it needs a little bit of fixing up, maybe you can put your own little touch on it. I think that that's really, really cute. Like, it's a rite of passage. So that's my number one thing that affects, purchasing power, and especially with first-time buyers and their ability to get into the market. And it goes hand in hand with the second thing that I'm going to mention, which is your car payment. Now, what a lot of first-time buyers don't understand is that that car payment significantly impacts how much a lender is going to lend to you as a total budget. Okay, so when you're going to buy a house, you're going to do a pre-approval, whether that's with a mortgage broker or a bank. Okay, and you're going to be pre-approved based on a mathematical calculation of the money that's coming in and going out every month. So one rule of thumb to keep in mind is that for every $400 that you are paying per month in a car payment, that will reduce your overall budget by $100,000. So imagine we go back to example one, where we have buyer who's pre-approved at $500,000. He can get a one-bed, one-bath condo, but he has a $400 car payment a month. Once the lender sees that, that $500,000 is going to go down to $400,000. And this $400 car payment a month is not even like the most that I've seen in a car payment. I have had buyers who have multiple cars, or they're paying bi-weekly thousands and thousands of dollars. So if you are kind of in that in between of should I buy a car or should I buy a house, my advice to you would be to go forward with the home purchase first, move in, get settled, close, make sure that you can stomach all the expenses, and then from there decide, do I want to finance a vehicle? The third thing that really affects purchasing power is your credit score. Okay, now your credit score is a measure of your trustworthiness with other people's money. Okay, that's how I like to put it. So in Canada, you can buy with less than 20% down through a tiered down payment system. So 5% on the first $500,000 and 10% from the balance of $500,000 up to $999, on the condition that your credit score is at 680 or above. Okay. If your credit score is not in good standing, then you cannot take advantage of that lower down payment option. Meaning you would have to come up with 20%. And 20% is significant when our average home price is, $800,000, $900,000. Even at $500,000, that's a down payment of $100,000, which is a significant amount of money, versus a down payment of $25,000 on a $500,000 purchase if you have good credit. So I'm just gonna put the numbers here. If you have good credit, you can take advantage of the tiered down payment system, which will allow you to put 5% on the first $500,000, which we'll only look at for the sake of this example. If you don't have good credit, then you'd have to put 20% on $500,000, which would equate to $100,000. See the difference? Not only does your credit score impact how much down payment you will have to put down, it also impacts your interest rate. So if you have good standing credit, chances are you will have access to the best interest rates at that time, okay? If you have bad credit, even with 20% down, you could still end up with a B lender or even a private lender who may not give you a good interest rate. You may be paying much higher interest because, again, your credit score is a measure of your trustworthiness with other people's money. So a lender is going to evaluate that when they're looking at you as a potential, candidate. And they're going to say, okay, buyer Bobby, he missed a few payments, so I'm going to protect my money that I'm loaning to him by charging him more interest on this. And I'm not going to nerd out on this and bore you on this today, at least not today. Okay, the fourth factor that is affecting your purchasing power has to do with whether or not you are self-employed. Now, traditionally as a self-employed person, you would need 20% down under any circumstances, and then the lenders would qualify you based on your gross income. I know this is where it gets a little technical. So when you run a business, you have your gross, right? That's like the gross income before any expenses. And then come tax time, your accountant is gonna give you a bunch of business write-offs in order to bring down that total income, because the lower that number is, the less taxes that you are gonna pay, right? So it's very common practice for a lot of business owners to have many write-offs to bring that total income down so that you don't pay a lot of taxes. You know, in Canada, we pay so much taxes. It's so insane up here. So when you're going to buy a house, this can be done one of two ways. Now again, you can still benefit from the tiered down payment system. However, you will be qualified at your net income after all of your expenses. So the income that comes on your NOA. Whereas, should you do the 20% down, then we can qualify you based on your gross income, and we can use stated income, which is a form of getting your bank statements to determine, okay, this is how much money was coming in gross. We can qualify that as income as long as you have 20% down. So even as a business owner, you can take advantage of the tiered down payment system, as long as your credit is good. But also, if you are writing everything off and you're claiming zero income, then you won't have any income to qualify when they go to do that pre-approval calculation. So it's something to take into consideration. The fifth factor that is potentially affecting your purchasing power are irregular streams of income. So for example, say that you work a salary but a commission-based job. They may want to average out a certain time period of your commissions to determine, you know, what would be a good number to use as proof of like a consistent amount of income, right? So that's from a commission standpoint. Another thing are, you know, waitresses, servers, any sort of cash jobs, right? If you may be making a lot of money, but if that money is not trackable, if that money is not on paper, then we're not able to prove that to a lender. I remember during the pandemic, we had some issues with qualifying even some teachers as well. When they were in and out of the classrooms, it was an issue with some of these lenders. A common one that I also did was I had a client who was an influencer, and she was streaming. And I remember she was streaming on Bigo Live and everything was fine. She wasn't doing anything bad, but these lenders are just these very old men who couldn't comprehend what she was doing, and they immediately thought that she was doing something salacious and scandalous, which she was not. I mean, in that case, we got it sorted and it's fine. But when you have kind of these irregular streams of income, sometimes it can affect your total purchasing power when you go to do your pre-approval. The easiest form of income is like a full-time salaried job. That is the easiest job to like do a pre-approval on, easy peasy. I mean, any other kind of job, we can handle it because we do handle it. We handle everything. But sometimes when we have these different, more unique roles or these unique forms of income, you have to be very strategic and tactical on how you should optimize your pre-approval. And then lastly, are interest rate changes. Okay, so we all saw during the pandemic when our rates were at all-time lows that people were qualifying for huge mortgages. And that's because, you know, through that pre-approval process and that mathematical calculation I mentioned to you, the lender will do their own risk assessment of how much they're willing to lend to you based on how much money is coming in and how much money is coming out. On top of that, they qualify you based on the current interest rates, okay? So there's almost like a balancing act between several ratios that all have to fall in line in order for a pre-approval to be completed. Now, when the rates are low, there's a lot of room to move within the ratios. So that's why people were qualifying for much more money. That's why people were willing to offer way over asking. Money was very, very cheap to borrow at that time. Now we're starting to see the reverse effects of that. So the interest rates are tighter, therefore the buyers, when they go to qualify, they don't qualify for as much. So quick example, buyer Bobby during the pandemic at a 1.8 interest rate qualified at $800,000 on his own. Now buyer Bobby at a 4.5 interest rate only qualifies at $600,000 on a mortgage. Same job, you know, same, but this is a measure of how those interest rates can really affect your qualifying amounts. And especially when it comes to your monthly mortgage payment. I think it's a common misconception that people think, oh, that payment is too high, maybe I should put more down, maybe I should save more, which is true to a certain extent. However, the number one factor impacting that monthly mortgage that you're paying every single month, whether it goes from $2,000 to $4,000, the most impactful factor is that interest rate. So, a mortgage at a 1.8 interest rate could be $2,400 versus a mortgage at a 4.5 interest rate could be $3,500 for that same amount of mortgage. It really depends on the interest rate. So interest rates play a huge role in determining your purchasing power. They play a huge role in determining your monthly mortgage payments, and they also are aligned with how you qualify for a purchase. So if you are a first-time buyer and you're kind of on the fence, you don't know what to do, I hope that you found some value in this video. I know I'm kind of talking about the unsexy stuff. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and you can check out my next one over here. If you'd like to book a one-on-one consultation, I will have a link down in the caption. What else? I guess that's it. Yeah. And thank you for watching.